okay, I'm just shooting B-roll and that whole arm just went off, and I have no clue what that's about. That's pretty goddamn terrifying. I'm gonna get off this bridge. I'm out in the North Cascades and we're taking some trichrome photography. Hopefully I get some good images, but yeah, it's pretty hot as you can tell. I'm sweating profusely. Trichrome photography. It's the process of taking 3 black and white photos, one with a red filter, one with a green filter, and one with a blue filter, to make one color image. If you take away the red filter and replace it with an infrared filter, as well as shoot on a black and white film stock that is sensitive to infrared light, you're able to capture a trichrome infrared photo. Mimicking aerochrome, the infrared trichrome process allows you to capture the color infrared look. That infrared look turns all your vegetation pink and red, which is otherworldly and really cool. So back in May, I ran off to the North Cascades for the sole purpose of taking some infrared trichrome photography. Ilford Hartman had actually reached out to me after seeing some of my trichrome photography that I did over at Mount Rainier. Yeah, that Ilford. HP5 Ilford. Through Instagram, they reached out and asked if I would like to contribute to their magazine that they display on their website. I was honestly shocked that they reached out to me, and I told them I would love to contribute, but I wanted to create all original work for this article since this was a very special opportunity for me. So I grabbed half a dozen rolls of Ilford's SFX 200, my Canon EOS 30, a 24mm f2.8, and the 40mm f2.8 as well, and ran off. Probably wondering why I chose the Canon EOS 30. I've actually really fallen in love with these plastic EOS cameras that Canon made in the late 90s and early 2000s. These plastic body cameras come with a lot of options that some of the older cameras don't offer. One feature that makes the trichrome process a lot easier with these cameras is aperture priority. This function saves me quite a lot of time. It reduces the time I have to do filter factors in my head, and I can just set the camera to what f-stop I prefer and let the camera decide what is the best shutter speed to use, depending on each filter. Speaking of filters though, I'd actually be shooting with a couple different filters on this trip. I'd be using the infrared filter, a red filter, a yellow filter, a green filter, and a blue filter. The goal was to do 3 different types of infrared trichromes, one being with the infrared filter, the green filter, and the blue filter, another one being with the infrared filter, the red filter, and the blue filter, and the last being with the infrared filter, the yellow filter, and the blue filter. These alternative trichrome processes would hopefully create equally beautiful yet stunningly different final photographs. The trichrome process is long and tedious, and it takes a while to set up and tear down. That being said, not every scene flourishes under those crimson tones, so I brought along my Nikon F2 and I had it loaded up with some Kodak Color Plus 200. I brought this along to capture duplicates of my trichromes, as well as to take some other photographs that looked good but weren't calling for the trichrome method. Today wasn't a sprint, but a marathon. I had already been on the road for several hours before I had even taken my first photo of the day. Now in the past though, I'd be pulling over and hiking and lugging around all my gear, so I wanted to make it worthwhile. It was a lovely spring day in the North Cascades Pass, and luckily for me, the pass had just opened the weekend prior. I eventually made my way to the Diablo Lake overlook, and I took my time here. I kind of used all my gear that I had with me, including a Pentax 6.7 that I had stowed away in my trunk. Again, I wanted to keep this trip exclusively about the trichrome photos, but I'm still kind of in the honeymoon phase with my Pentax 6.7. Honestly, I haven't had much chance to use it yet, and I felt this trip was too good of an opportunity to not bring it along. As well, I didn't want to miss out on any opportunities that were calling for those larger negatives. After all, it's better to have and not need than to need and not have. The next stop would be a short trail down to a dam. This trail had scenic views of the canyon as well as the dam, and also crossed over one of the small waterfalls made by the snowmelt.
Alright, hey guys, I've been hiking all day. It's been pretty warm, but I've been shooting quite a bit actually, like already on the second roll of a SFX 200, so it's not bad. Like there's a lot of good compositions. The light's a little intense today, it's gonna be pretty contrasty, but hey, it's better than nothing. Like I'll take the sunlight, especially living up here in the Pacific Northwest.
After a decent time hiking though, I made my way over to a vista to kind of see if I can see how far away I was from my final destination, which was the dam. As beautiful as this overlook was, it filled me with disappointment. I knew if I continued down this dam, I wasn't going to be able to make it to any other stops before sundown. I would either be able to complete this trail to the dam, or turn around and explore some more locations. I weighed my options and made my decision. I felt that I'd be able to capture better photographs and check out more things if I turned around, which I did.
It's so goddamn hot.
So I booked it back to the car and made my way to the next spot. Here I would load up the Nikon F2 with some Color Plus 200 again, the Pentax 6.7 I would load up with some Kodak Gold 200, and of course I'd be shooting SFX 200 in the Canon EOS 30. this road was still technically shut off for the season, but you were able to hike up it. So I parked off to the side of the road and grabbed all of my gear and decided to march on up. I was really searching for dynamic compositions with a decent amount of vegetation here. Unfortunately, I was dead set on shooting the grand vistas here with my trichrome setup, but looking at some of these other photographs from both the Nikon and the Pentax 6.7, I think I missed out on capturing some really interesting compositions in color infrared. Well, you live and you learn.
Whoa, I'm so tired. I brought too much shit. It's nice though.
Shooting through golden hour here was fun. I was really enjoying myself, until I ended up falling into a 4-foot deep pocket of snow and ice melt. I was scrambling up this embankment to get a better view of the canyon, and I suddenly fell into this hole, and it really jarred me and reminded me of my mortality. After hyperventilating and tossing out a few different swear words, I kinda regained my composure. The only thing going through my mind was how bad it would have been to spend the night in a damp, wet, icy hole in the middle of the North Cascade Pass with nobody knowing where I was. It was this fear that gave me the strength to wiggle out of the hole like a toddler and make my way back down to the path. Honestly, do you think they'd make a movie about my final hours in the North Cascades if I passed away there? Would they show my photos in the end credits? Would they cast Ryan Gosling to play me? Or would it more likely be Daniel Baldwin? Either way, it probably wouldn't have a theatrical release. It'd probably be a Frontier Airlines exclusive. At this point, I called it quits. I was cold, sore, slightly scared, and as well, hungry. So I made my way towards the town of Winthrop to get something to eat, drink, as well as lay my head down, as this would be home base for the next day and a half. Day 2 had me drive quite a bit more. I had planned 2 stops hoping to take some interesting trichrome photos at these destinations, but I gave myself enough time to allow for detours and exploration. And the goal wasn't to rush, but to let the photography come naturally. I shot mostly on the Nikon F2 at first to ease into shooting for the day. I was vigilantly looking for interesting compositions that were also very lush with plant light, hoping for some infrared photos.
I've made my way out into basically the centermost northern part of Washington. I'm kind of just a couple miles out from the Canadian border. I'm heading out to this old ghost town called Molson, and I'm really excited to shoot there. I'm gonna do some more infrared trichromes, but also I'm thinking about doing something a little more fun too. Let's see if I have everything to do it. Hi, how's it going?
So I made it to the small town of Molson. Molson's about 2 miles away from the Canadian border in the dead center of Washington, and happens to feature a ghost town right in the heart of the city. Originally, when I read about Molson, I thought this would probably be in more state of decay and a little more abandoned. That being said, the town of Molson treated this ghost town as a historical site and kept it pretty well preserved. It was kind of a change of pace to walk into an abandoned building and not really have to think about the ceiling or the floor caving in on you. This whole area had this rural charm about it that was really pleasant. I really enjoyed it out here. It was really picturesque. Picture-esque? I don't blame you for unsubscribing. Classic cars rusting into the American landscape. This is why I shoot film. Again, I was mostly warming up in the Nikon F2, just getting the practice of taking some rough images at first and scouting the area as well.
This is like the most terrifying papier-mâché pig I've ever seen.
When it came to the ghost town here in Molson, I wanted some medium format shots first. The vibrant greens here were just calling for some Fuji Pro 400H. I was really enjoying shooting my Pentax 6.7, so I decided to try out doing some panoramas with this camera. I loaded up some TMAX 400 and added a red filter. I've heard people compare the panoramic photographs from the Pentax 6.7 with the 45mm lens as a great substitute for the X-Pan. I don't think they were talking about form factor, weight, or the ease of changing rolls of film, but the images are wide. Alright, back to the infrared trichromes. After all, this is the infrared trichrome road trip. This area was super fun to explore and set up shots. The old Wild West buildings and the color infrared look just worked. Maybe it's because these older wooden buildings reflect infrared light, adding to the warmth of the images. I actually took a handful of infrared trichromes here in Molson, but I didn't really like a lot of my photos. I was definitely experimenting more than I should have. I was going in and out of buildings, taking photos through windows, through doors, and I was really using harsh contrast from the framing of the buildings and the windows to add to the scenes, but unfortunately, it just didn't end up working. A+ for creativity, D- for execution.
This place is really cool. It kind of reminds me of like places my dad used to take me and my siblings, like as we were kids, just old ghost towns. Like, again, like we were doing this all in the Southwest, but it's kind of cool seeing this stuff up here in the North. Like, I'm having a really big nostalgia, like right now, just being in here and just checking everything out. But yeah, it's really, really cool.
With my creative juices up here, I finished off the roll in the Pentax pan and packed up and left Molson.
I entered the door into this building and this scared the living shit out of me. Like, it was like I was sun blinded and she just popped right out. Alright, I think it's time to head out. Molson was fun, it's been real, but let's get to the next place.
Heading further east now, I made a stop at the town of Chesaw. Stopped here for a drink and just to get out of the sun for a bit. As well, the bartender was super friendly. We spent a while exchanging stories, and they gave me a bit of history about the area. One beer mixed with being dehydrated by the unforgiving sun led me to having too much fun recording myself in the bathroom. Feeling recuperated, it was time to hit the road again, and I made my way to the second ghost town of the day, Bodie. Luckily for me, Bodie was still standing, and I got to explore this ghost town all by myself. Unfortunately, there was a road that cut through the dead center of this town, but it didn't really make a difference to me, since nobody was really heading down this way anyways. Bodie was definitely feeding my creative pursuits today. I was running all over these grounds looking for the perfect compositions. Forgetting that I almost died on a mountaintop the day prior, I decided to test my luck and head up to the second story of a derelict building. Certainly this abandoned building should be able to hold me and the Pentax 6.7, I thought.
So there's these ominous stairs in this abandoned building and I kind of want to go up, but I don't know how secure the stairs is. I guess if I fall, my YouTube channel will be better. Okay, I went to the second floor of this house. Probably not my smartest move I've made, but it didn't give out from under me, so I guess I'm not that fat. Alright, so I made it out of there and I didn't fall through the floor, so I guess there's that.
I felt like I got some really good infrared trichromes here. As well, I felt like I got some really nice photographs in general here. Like, I got some good stuff both on the Nikon and the Pentax as well. Not wanting to push it, I decided to pack up and move on to the next spot. Earlier in the day, when I was driving towards Molson, I spotted this abandoned field that had a whole bunch of cars left in it. It was on the way back to Winthrop, so I thought I'd make a detour here and check it out.
Alright, sorry I'm using my cell phone, but I left the other camera in the car. I've been out in the field taking some trichrome photos, and there's been lightning strikes behind me in the hills, so I've been trying to get this really done fast, but I'm doing trichrome photos. They're not fast, so let's see what happens.
I didn't shoot much B-roll at this location because I was working fast to get all these photographs. With a storm rolling in overhead, the sun setting, and the possibility of being kicked out of the premises, I focused on capturing the decaying lot as fast as I could. I truly have a soft spot in my heart for these old rust buckets. Hell, I used to own and drive cars that weren't far away from this state of decay. Also, my dad was a mechanic when I was growing up, so I used to be the kid holding the flashlight helping his dad when he was working. Standing there not having a single clue what's going on, but hoping I was doing a good job. So honestly, when I'm standing around old broken down vehicles, I'm filled with nostalgia. It's a comforting feeling, oddly. Alright, so I just finished the last shot on these trichromes and it's beginning to rain. So I'm gonna pack up and get the hell out of here so I don't die. Didn't get struck by lightning, so there's that for now. Let's see if I make it to the car. On the outskirts of Winthrop, though, I pulled off the highway just to catch a glimpse of the sunset.
Gotta say, it's like sunsets like these that really make it all worthwhile.
Today had been a successful day. It was filled with photography and exploration, two of my favorite things. As well, I felt I got some really good photos. Eventually I made it back to the town of Winthrop. Before I got dinner, I decided to finish up the roll in the Nikon F2 and call it quits for the day. Alright, it's the last day. No clue what I'm gonna do or where I'm gonna go, but got a few more rolls I need to shoot, so let's see how this goes. So today was the third and final day of the infrared trichrome road trip. I exclusively wanted to dedicate today to the infrared trichrome process of the trip, so I ended up packing up the Pentax 6.7 and the Nikon F2 for the day. It was just going to be me, the Canon EOS 30, and a bunch of filters. The original goal of today was to go back through the North Cascades. I wanted to make some stops at a couple different places I had skipped on the first day of the trip and kind of capture those today. Unfortunately, that storm that was blowing in overhead the day before, it made its way into the pass, and the weather said it wasn't going to let up today. Rather than play a waiting game to see if the weather would let up in the Cascade Pass, I decided to go back down and around the other way, through the Snoqualmie Pass. The goal today was spontaneity. Basically, whenever I saw what could be an interesting composition for an infrared trichrome photo, the goal was to pull over and capture it on film. With that being said though, I drove 2 hours down to Columbia without pulling over because I couldn't really find anything that was really calling to me. Luckily for me, I eventually found a location that I thought would be the perfect place for infrared trichromes. But it wasn't. This area was fine. I just don't think it was worth the film I wasted here. Unfortunately, I was feeling guilty about being on the road so much today that I was kind of forcing myself to take some infrared trichromes. In my experience though, when you're forcing yourself to take a photo, it's probably not a good photo. I knew I'd be seeing the same thing if I followed the Columbia River, and it wasn't really inspiring me to take photos. This area was just pretty dry, arid, and didn't have much vegetation other than some shrubs, so it wasn't really calling for the infrared trichrome look. This feeling of being uninspired led me to do something drastic and take a detour. I headed off to Leavenworth. It was a beautiful day in Leavenworth. The sun was shining, the people were out in droves, there was hardly any snow on the mountains, everything was just lush and green. As well, it wasn't that cloudy. You could actually see the mountaintops, and that's pretty rare for me when I'm up in Leavenworth. It's usually always cloudy. Honestly, I should have gone through 2 rolls of film here. It was a gorgeous, beautiful day. Honestly, probably one of the best days I've witnessed in Leavenworth for myself. Unfortunately, I just wasn't feeling it though. I'm not too sure if this was from burnout for shooting for the past 2 days consistently, or if I was just being extra critical on myself and my compositions, and just not allowing myself to feel the creativity. Feeling like I had to at least fire 1 shot to justify the gas spent getting here, I set up the tripod and took 1 image. Feeling a tad disappointed, I leaned back into my original goal of spontaneity. I told myself, if you see something, pull over and capture it. And luckily for me, on the way back to the Snoqualmie Pass, I found a beacon of hope. A hamburger stand. This hamburger stand's kind of a cult classic in this area. I've seen it on Instagram before, but this would be my first time capturing it, and what a better way than to do it on infrared trichrome. Unfortunately, when I parked the car and got out here, there was gale force winds in this parking lot. I had literally lost my hat, and I had my Pentax 6.7 in my bag at the base of the tripod, and even from setting it still, the wind was blowing so fast it was actually swaying my backpack. I tried my best to capture this area, but I kind of knew that the images wouldn't turn out right because of the wind. Felt that the shaking of my backpack on the tripod would cause a blurry image no matter what, so I kind of just committed, took the photo, and packed up from there. So I tried to take some photos of this burger joint, but there's like gale force winds, so yeah, I'm kind of skipping this. I already lost my hat twice just trying to take the one photo that I took, but yeah, it's like way too windy here, so I'm pretty sure that all my images are gonna be shaky anyway, so yeah, off to the next location. Definitely not happy with today's progression. I felt that maybe the Snoqualmie Pass would be my final Hail Mary throw of the day. This would be the spot that I could finally get some photos in. That this would be the saving grace of my trip. It wasn't. On the way through the pass, it started to rain, clouds started to move in, and all the light basically vanished for the evening. The infrared trichrome road trip was done. It was time to go home. This was an amazing little solo trip. It's not very often I get to spend 3 days by myself working on my craft. Having a deadline by Ilford really inspired and pushed me to create new work. I treated this like a commissioned job. This wasn't only a professional setting for me to create work, but for me to show work. I wanted to make a lasting impression. As well, this wasn't only an opportunity for me to show my work, but also to share my voice about my work. I am truly honored that my work caught the attention of the people over at Ilford. I am also shocked that they asked me to write an article for their website's magazine about my photography. For me, this really let me know that I'm moving in the right direction when it comes to my photography. In a world of algorithm and likes, it's pretty hard to see if you're making work that matters or is at least influential. Having the opportunity to share my work alongside other artists that I respect and admire on a website hosted by a company that actually cares about its consumers is really awesome for me. I'm really excited about this. I didn't reach out to be on their magazine. They reached out to me, which is kind of impressive. It's not every day that someone's coming up to you and saying, hey, we like your work so much, we want to feature it. And that's special. Hopefully this is more of a starting point for my photographic career and not so much my zenith. If you're interested in reading the article, I'm going to leave a link in the description. I'd really appreciate it if you went out and read it, and also left me a comment about what you thought. Again, it feels real nice to be seen by this community that I desperately wanted to be a part of, and I'm feeling like I'm a real part of it right now. Hell, maybe my art degree is finally paying off.